Tinfoil hat. Oh, what the fuck are you guys even talking about?
Global controls will have to be imposed, and a world governing body will be created to enforce them.
Welcome to Tinfoil Hat. We go deep, homeboy. Aaron, open your mind. Drink from the fountain of knowledge. There's lizard people everywhere. That's some interdimensional shit. Wake up, Aaron.
This is only the beginning.
Dude, you just blew my mind.
Are you ready to get your mind blown?
Good morning, Swarm, and welcome to Full Hat. You know I'm here. I'm here to rock. Join me as always, Xavier Guerrero, and on the ones and twos, Jay Nice, Juicy Johnny Woodard, live from the Wise Wolf Gold and Silver Studios. That's right. Go to SamTripoli.gold, use the promo code Tinfoil, and you can join the Wolf Pack. Precious metals sent to your house for as little as $50 a month. It's that easy. Get into it, right? The fiat system is crashing and burning. Grab those precious metals. Guys, big announcement again, October 15th. Winning, that's right. My special, Why Is Everybody Getting Quiet, is going to be on SamTripoli.com and Rumble.com. You could check it out right there. So go check that out. If you want to see me live, I'm going to be in Louisville, Kentucky on the 10th, October 11th and 12th. Only 4 shows. Go check that out. The Tulsa, Oklahoma, be at the Looney Bin November 14th through the 16th. Tampa Bay on the 6th. I'll be at Side Splitters, and then Cancun, Mexico for the Jiu-Jitsu Overdose. Okay, so let's get into it. We got a great episode with Jay Dyer. Let's get into it, man. Wait to hear about British intelligence and Islam. Here we go. All right, he's one of the best we got. We love having him on the podcast. He's crushing it. He's on tour. He's on InfoWars. He's getting into real deep debates with Muslims. I love him, dude. This new guy, we see this new colored scheme, haircut. I mean, everything is just pure fire today. Please welcome Jay Dyer. Jay, how are you?
What's up, dude? So glad to be back. Yeah, it's one of my favorite podcasts to come on, honestly, because it's high tier topics and we get to cut up and be funny. That's the perfect balance, bro.
Thank you, dude. Well, we love having you on. You always have an open door for anything and everything you want to talk about. For those who don't know about your numerous appearances on the show, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and where our listeners can find you?
Yeah, I cover everything from Hollywood, movie symbolism, esoteric stuff, and film. I'm working on Esoteric Hollywood 3 right now. I got 300 pages of that written. Should be out in the next few months. We also do, as Sam said, a lot of debates. It's actually popped off with debating Muslims way more so than I expected in the last few years. We've done multiple Muslim debates. We had a huge one on Fresh and Fit about a month ago. I do, as you said, the 4th hour of the Alex Jones Show every Friday. Done that for 4 years. So, yeah, that's what I do. You can find me at jasonanalysis.com. You can find me my website. You can find me on InfoWars. You can find me on Twitter and all those other things, YouTube under my name.
So you seem to be having your foot in a bunch of different, genres, let's say. You're into conspiracies. You're also into religion. You're also into the history of religion. And it just seems like all those things are popping off right now from just things that conspiracy theorists have been talking forever about, all seem to be coming true. And then all these kind of Abrahamic apocalyptic prophecies seem to be lining up as well. What are your thoughts on where we're hurling towards right now?
It's weird too, because 8-10 years ago, I didn't know a whole lot about Islam. I've read about Islamic geopolitics, but I didn't know the religion, the different sects and the different groups and their different beliefs. I just knew about CIA, British intelligence operations in these countries, which I think is still very relevant to this stuff. But it's weird because I just kind of got deep into Shia stuff. And of course, that's what, Nasrallah, Hezbollah, Iran, that's Shia Islam. It's its own weird, sort of unique Neoplatonic esoteric version of Islam, which is very strange. And the way that contrasts with rabbinic Judaism, the establishment of the state of Israel. I mean, it's just a whole like mega rabbit hole that it's crazy. I don't even know how to describe it, but I think that it is a spiritual thing on one level, but also you've got this geopolitical machinations, things going on in the background. I did a deep dive on a lot of Mossad stuff fairly recently. So, I mean, there's just so many levels and layers to this. I wouldn't even know where to begin, but from a spiritual vantage point, I would say, I don't know if it's the end of the world, but it definitely might be a mini kind of apocalyptic scenario if it escalates.
Now, let me ask you something. So as somebody who is a devout Catholic and
Orthodox,
you're not
No.
Catholic, you're Orthodox. Okay. Yeah. My buddy, Giovanni Vuk is a huge fan, and we do this thing where we listen to Johnny Cash read the Bible and we discuss it. If you ever have a moment, we'd love for you to jump on. As you see kind of this thing going on between Israel, all of these neighboring countries, and we have the whole thing with Christianity and the prophecies and all that. Does the actions of Israel affect your view on any of this, or is this lining up with how you see it's supposed to play out?
only in a kind of minor way. I mean, we don't, as Orthodox Christians, really accept anything to do with like an atheistic secular Zionist state as if that's like some kind of, it could be something developing into something prophetic. But typically we're very reserved about end time speculations. We know there will be an Antichrist. We know that it will probably in some way relate to a third temple and the state of Israel, but we don't take newspaper headlines and say, oh, this newspaper headline fulfills chapter 17 of Revelation. I mean, we would just tend to shy away from that. But again, it definitely could develop into something mini apocalyptic. I don't think we're at the end of the world, because one reason for that is that the Orthodox have this view, and I think even Catholics, some of them share this view. I don't know about evangelicals, but there is a belief that eventually the Jews will convert to Christianity. And if they do, and when they do, that is believed to be one of the signs of the end of the world. So that doesn't look like it's happening anytime soon. If orthodoxy is true, I mean, we got a while before any of the Jews care about Christianity.
Now you have a bunch of Christian Zionists out there, and listen, I'm cool with everybody. Do you have any thoughts on kind of like the actions of Netanyahu in that kind of thinking? Like, to me, it's just kind of crazy that there's people that believe this is all part of a plan, and then we see a bunch of and I don't know your opinion on October 6th, but we're just gonna, for the sake of the discussion, go maybe it was a false flag, right? Just for the discussion of it.
I think it was allowed to happen.
Okay, so and how that plays into this kind of belief system, like it's just weird to me. I don't know why. I'm gonna be honest with you, I struggle a lot with as I become a Christian, and I mean I believe in the teachings of Jesus. Okay. I know this, some people are going to love this part of the conversation. Some people are going to hate it. But there just seems like a lot of chaos in the Abrahamic religions to me. And it makes me hard to figure out what is right and what is wrong.
Well, from the Orthodox perspective, first point, no, we don't at all believe in Christian Zionism. So, and neither does the traditional Roman Catholic position. So Orthodox and Catholic agree, and even classical Protestantism doesn't believe in that. Really only a small, more recent movement of evangelicals is where we get this idea of Christian Zionism from. And I don't know if we might have done a podcast, can't remember where we talked about this, but like we would agree that this is really something that the British Empire, Oxford University, the Rothschild elite foisted upon the West through the Scofield Study Bible, through setting up these educational facilities that pushed Christian Zionism around the turn of the century in America. So it has nothing to do with historic Christianity. It's a very late late 1800s from John Nelson Darby and some other figures who split from the Church of England, created their own kind of Protestant movement. Believe it or not, Aleister Crowley was actually raised in the Plymouth Brethren. So all of the Christian Zionism that we get comes out of the Plymouth Brethren movement, which was this weird British faction that was fostered by very wealthy elite people. They created their own study Bible. It's still sold in America today by Oxford University, the Scofield Study Bible. And that's what convinced a lot of Americans, get this, right before the establishment of the nation state of Israel, that American Christians should support this new created nation state. But as you know, there's Torah observant Jews. They don't accept this as a valid state of Israel. They see it as a really just a totally geopolitical thing. The British Empire Rothschilds admittedly behind the Balfour Declaration. So I think it's totally an imperial creation, and it was intended originally to be one of the outposts of the British Empire for controlling the Middle East, the British Empire and their spies. They divided up the Middle East. I was going to talk about some of those characters like T.E. Lawrence.
Yeah, let's get into it.
St. John Philby. Those are famous British spies. They carved up the Middle East. So a lot of the Middle East that we have today, after what's called the Sykes-Picot Agreement with France and the UK, after the Ottoman Empire fell, like they just divided it up according to what the British Empire wanted to control that region according to imperialism. And as you know, as you move up into to shift away from the theological stuff, as you get into the early stages of the nation state of Israel, it was the Irgun, that gang, the Stern gang, that became the first sort of almost rebellious anti-British imperial group. They bombed the King David Hotel. They killed Jews and British ambassadors. They wanted to overthrow British rule and to be sort of independent. Same time, the Cold War was happening. The Soviets also wanted to utilize the nation state of Israel. Israel sort of eventually just swung towards being in line with the West, but they didn't want to be under British rule. So that's how you get this sort of the early stages of, I think, the Israeli military were like these people who were part of the Stern gang, the Irgun. They were basically terrorists. So
yes, dude,
that's where you get the origin of those people. Excuse me, for the military there. But it gets really complex because Britain was also screwing over Jews too. So it's not all one-sided. Like Britain wanted to give the impression that they were going to create this homeland for Jews, which, and I understand, that was unfair to the existing Palestinian people that were there, right? So there was this idea that they'll all be led there. The British Empire aided Hitler. Hitler was also through. Have you heard of that secret agreement that Hitler had with the Zionists for the nation state of Israel, the Havara agreement?
Yes, nobody ever talks about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So again, you know, people think that you're like a goofy guy, but I always find that like Sam like knows all of this history. Like I think you're way smarter than you kind of. I'm not saying you're dumb, but I'm saying
I get it, dude.
You play like you're like a super just goofy comedy guy, but I think you're like really, really sharp on this stuff because I listen to your podcast regularly. But anyway, I mean, I'm rambling, but you get the idea. So basically, look, it was there was this plan for imperial geopolitics, carve up the Middle East. Israel would be an outpost. Israel ends up kind of being not under the British Empire anymore. They get to be very powerful. People debate whether Israel controls the U.S. policy, whether is the dog wagging the tail or is the tail wagging the dog. There's a deep relationship there. I think the U.S. still tries to play both sides of conflicts. Obviously, it always tends to side towards Israel, but they will still fund Iran and give them a lot of money. The Democrats are big on that. So it's hard to know exactly like to what degree. I think it's a matter of degrees, right? Because they'll send $8 billion to Iran, but then they'll send however dozens more billions to Israel. So the U.S. tries to play both sides to placate the masses. Obviously, AIPAC has a huge role in influencing American policy. I don't know. I'm rambling. It's super.
No, but I love all of it, and you're nailing all some of pretty much some of my favorite topics to talk about. I really, there's moments where you hear like a bit of data, and you're just like, wow, wow, that's kind of an interesting piece of the puzzle that I didn't know. And when Queen Elizabeth, when she was alive, she was bragging about how she was like a relative of Muhammad. And I just, that just blew my mind. Like, because you always knew they were everybody was related, but to that level, it is shocking. So then you get into, I've seen the debates between Muslims and Christians and all of that stuff. But the role of the British government and British intelligence in the formation of Islam, and this is nothing against people who are Islamic, I mean, everybody has their beliefs. We're not, but we're just, data and what should be facts shouldn't have hurt. We don't worry about people's feelings when we discuss this stuff. That these are statistics that we should just be able to discuss without having emotional reactions to them. And that's an interesting data point to me that the Queen Elizabeth, who was like that, I think is way more powerful than we're led to believe, has a like close tie to the person who formed one of the Abrahamic religions. Like, what are your thoughts on all that?
Yeah, I mean, Charles says the same thing about Dracula. He says,
Yeah.
I'm descended from Dracula, the Impaler. I don't actually think that Vlad the Impaler was like this monster like a lot of people think. I think he was just basically a medieval Catholic and almost kind of Orthodox dude who was trying to defend against Islam. He might have been brutal in the way that he fought, but dude, everybody in the Middle Ages is freaking brutal, dude. They're all like putting heads on poles. I mean, that's just the Middle Ages. I don't think he was uniquely somehow like out of accord with the Middle Ages brutality. But so when it comes to like her saying that, I mean, there's this weird relationship that the British elites have always had, both to Judaism and to Islam. And I think the explanation for that is that they, for one, amongst the British elite, have always had some that were Arab files, and then they've had some that leaned more towards Judaism, and that's because the Rothschilds obviously have played a key role in the British power structure. Obviously, they're the big power behind Zionism and the formation of the modern nation state of Israel. But you had a lot of British elites too, according to Quigley, a century ago, that were rabidly you have some of them even becoming Muslim. So I think both things are going on. And one explanation beyond that is imperial geopolitics. If you run an empire, you want to try to manage and control all of these different ideas and tribes and groups. And one way to do that is, for example, in the case of like Charles has had a lot of phases where like he's been into Sufism. He was inducted into a Sufi order, which is a mystical Islam. He's expressed interest in Orthodox Christianity. You see him holding icons of Orthodox saints. He's talked about Catholicism at one point. So, I mean, I think what politicians and kings and elites do is they kind of try to play like they're all the positions because that plays well for audiences. So who knows what they really believe? I think they really believe in power, managing an empire that has a massive amount of worldviews and religious views. And they probably want to play all sides of that. You know what I mean? And if you go back to like the beginning of British intelligence doing a lot of these operations to control the Middle East, for example, St. John Philby, he's the father of Kim Philby, who's the most famous British turncoat who became a Soviet. This is the famous Cambridge spy ring. They made that movie with Gary Oldman, Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. That's loosely based on the famous Cambridge spy ring. They were all Skittles men that were compromised by the KGB, and they ended up going to Russia during the Soviet period.
That's so crazy.
Yeah, they defected from England. But Kim Philby was the son of the most famous earlier generation British spy, St. John Philby, who basically went to the Middle East, became a sheikh. And now, did he really believe Islam, or was he doing this for British intelligence? I mean, he's a known British intelligence operative, right? But he goes and basically sets up Saudi Arabia. So where we get Saudi Arabia today is the British imperial espionage machinations of St. John Philby, who becomes Sheikh. Let me see what his name was, Sheikh Abdullah something. So he converted out of Anglicanism or whatever, and becomes a Muslim sheikh. But this is where you get the British, the Saudi kingdom today. Now there's a movie.
It is so crazy, bro. Have you seen, so crazy.
Isn't that wild? Have you ever seen the movie Lawrence of Arabia?
Yeah.
Yeah, that guy, right? So Peter O'Toole's playing T.E. Lawrence, who's like another like a gay British spy dude who goes and he does the same thing as St. John Philby. He's just basically carving up the Middle East, taking all these tribes and turning them into British created nation states to rule. Now, eventually, obviously, the British Empire wanes and kind of dies out. Then you get the Pax Americana taking over. America just kind of basically takes over the same model, and then working together with British spies. They still kind of run this giant former British Empire, but these are the guys that set this up. You watch movies like Lawrence of Arabia and you see that.
That's incredible, dude. That is insane. Hey guys, the world economy is getting crazy. Inflation's out of control. You got to hedge your bets. And the best way to do it is precious metals. And that's why I want to tell you again about our good friends at Wise Wolf Gold and Silver. Let me tell you about Wise Wolf Gold and Silver. Join the Wolf Pack now. Trust me, because if you're paying attention, you know the de-dollarization is real. Fiat is fake, and you don't want to be left holding the bag when the dollar collapses. Gold and silver have been money through all of recorded history and are an excellent way to protect yourself from inflation and geopolitical turmoil. That's why I trust my friends at Wise Wolf Gold and Silver for all precious metals, all things precious metals. I love it. I am part of the Wolf Pack. Every month I have precious metals sent right to my house, and I love it. See, Wise Wolf Gold and Silver is veteran owned and A+ rating by the Better Business Bureau. No transaction is too big or too small. You can even roll over your 401k or IRA into physical gold and silver. And if you think you can't afford precious metals, think again. With the Wolfpack monthly membership program, you can get gold and silver delivered directly to your door for as little as $50 a month. As little as $50 a month, you can have precious metals. You start loading it up, man. By the end of the year, you'll have a good chunk of precious metals. Dude, it's crazy. Just go to SamTripoli.gold. You can see all the different plans they have. Man, it's like $50. Lone Wolf, Warrior Wolf, $125. Alpha Wolf is $250. And it just keeps going up. Sent to your house. Right there. It's that simple. It's that simple. Easy peasy. Get in, get out, get your gold, get your silver. I love it. I'm doing it. Dude, I'm telling you, all of these affiliates I use, and I use Wise Wolf Gold and Silver. I use it all the time. It's real simple. So if you want to get in, this is how you do it. Wise Wolf Gold and Silver also deals in and accepts Bitcoin. So here's what I need you to do. Okay, go to SamTripoli.gold, promo code tinfoil at checkout to receive free constitutional silver. That's right. And remember, in a world of bulls and bears, be the wolf. So basically, this British spy converts to Islam and just basically takes over Saudi Arabia. That is so crazy to me.
Well, they set it up. They're basically like, look, you guys are all warring tribes. Let's put you into, these kingdoms, and you'll be colonies, I guess, of the British Empire. So this is where you get Iraq. This is where you get Saudi Arabia, right? Like, so prior to the British Empire, there wasn't Iraq and Saudi Arabia. There were just tribes warring, basically.
Yeah, and so I've done episodes. I can't find the book. It's this book I bought a long time ago that basically broke down that fits in exactly what you're talking about how the Saudis, or the House of Saud or whatever, the Saudi royals, they were nomads. Just wandering the land, and they found oil under their ground. So they set up this kind of system with them. And it was like, listen, we'll set up the whole way to extract your oil. You just have to agree to a couple things. First of all, is a 60-year fixed deposit into our banks, and you have to invest your money in America. And all that was done, and then they used all that Saudi money to basically give it to third world countries in loans that they could never ever pay off. And when they faulted on the loans, they basically screwed the Saudis. And to this day, I think that's why you have to go to Islam. I mean, the whole thing about Islam is go dance around a black cube, which to me is absolutely insanity. And it's why Saudi Arabia plays ball with Israel so much, because they're
Yes.
everything you're saying just totally fits into this, that they are controlled by the British Empire, or what has morphed into basically the City of London and
Yes.
the banking cabal. And it
Exactly.
totally fits in. It's like all this, and that's why he's totally playing ball, because they're captured. And when you look at like America pumping, we produce more oil than Saudi Arabia. Why do we need Saudi oil?
We don't actually need that. Kissinger set it up so that we would be
Yeah.
reliant on them. Exactly.
Yeah,
When's
it's
that
crazy.
and you guys said it was a contract? When is it over? Is it over? Did they re-sign or?
That's a great question. I don't know when it defaulted, but I guarantee they just kept rolling it over. Like, hey, dude, this is working for everybody. Let's keep it going. You know, the Saudis get to have more money than anyone ever. They have America and Israel basically sending them arms to control their nation. And, everyone uses their oil because they want to control that region. So it
And-
just totally,
And they had already figured out, like back in like 1917, wait a minute, there's probably oil right in these places. That's part of the reason why some of these spies are going there, right? So Britain's not just interested in like controlling the land. Obviously they are, and dividing it up and running it in an empire. But there's a book that I just bought. I haven't read it yet, but it's going to line up, I think, with a lot of the research I've been doing. That it's called Black Gold Spies, which is that probably T.E. Lawrence and St. John Philby are also there as really like oil scouts. I mean, spies are not just spying for the government to, run assassinations or black ops or whatever. They're spying out for resources to take. And so it makes perfect sense. I'll just read. This is just public information. The Wikipedia says in 1917, St. John Philby was sent to the interior of the Arabian Peninsula as the head of a mission to Ibn Saud, the chieftain who professed Wahhabism. Keep that in mind. The movement within Sunni Islam, the bitter enemy of Hussein bin Ali, the Sharif of Mecca, who led the Hashemites in the Arab Revolt. Now, they were both contending to be king of the Arabs at this time. And the reason for that, the British wanted this to occur with Ibn Saud because they were going to set up the Saudis who would then run and control Mecca. If the British Empire could control Mecca, that'd be huge. That's what they were after, as well as, wait a minute, there's probably oil in these places too. So they're black gold spies, as well as being religious operators or religious engineers, religious spies. So this is key. Why? Because this is where you get Wahhabism, which is this movement to revive what we call Atharism or Salafi Islam. And so a lot of the people that I end up debating, they're part of what's called Salafi radical Islam. This is like Jake, Daniel Hakikachu, Muhammad Hijab, those guys that you see me debating. They're part of that school of radical Salafi Islam, which believes in like the straight up hardcore Islamic doctrines. But what I'm getting at is that the modern resurgence of that is intimately tied up with British intelligence, the Muslim Brotherhood. And this is why a lot of people have connected a lot of the recent terror events of the last several decades to these types of groups, right? Muslim Brotherhood, and that doesn't exclude the CIA, right? So like when it comes out that not the big 9 event, the 9/11 event is connected to Saudis, that's because Saudi intelligence goes back to being basically set up by British intelligence.
So crazy.
And by the way, yes, you're right that there's a close relationship between those and Israeli intelligence too.
So is your belief that because I always had this debate, do you think there's and I have Muslim friends, do you think there's moderate Islam?
I mean, there are people who interpret Islam in a moderate way, but when you actually get to the text of the Quran and the traditional teachings of the Sunnis and the Shias, like they do believe that they're supposed to engage in all forms of jihad. So jihad is not just warring against false ideas. There is also actual jihad. So I think that's traditional Islam. So anytime you see Muslims who are progressive or something like that, keep in mind within the Quran, they actually have a basis for what they call a kind of legitimate deception. So they believe that when they're in the minority, it's legitimate for them to deceive. So they can actually pretend to be your friend. But traditional Orthodox Islam, either way, Sunni, Shia, like they actually believe that they're not supposed to be your friends. They're only supposed to be your friend when they're in the minority, and then when they're in the majority, they can sort of levy the jizya and put in Sharia law and all this kind of stuff. So I would say progressive Islam is really a manifestation in certain Western countries, or maybe in places like Syria. So not every Muslim is committed to traditional Islam, but traditional Islam does teach these types of things for sure.
Can I ask you something? And this isn't me trying to be, but it's a legitimate question. Can we say that, as we get into that, this British spy, this British Empire's influence on Islam, when we get into something called the Babylonian oral history of the rabbis in the Talmud, do you have any thoughts of that we could be seeing the same playbook done by the same people at a very high level, whether it's the Babylonians, the Phoenicians, or whoever they are, going back far enough? When we see the things in the Talmud and people have a discussion about that, do you see any similarities in that?
Probably similarities in terms of modes and methods of control and manipulation. For example, Muhammad seems to have thought that he was legitimately going to be like a new manifestation of a Jewish and Christian prophet or figure like that. So what he did was he seems to have combined elements of the Old Testament Bible, the New Testament teachings of Christ and the apostles to a minor degree, and rabbinic and Talmudic teachings. So there's actually multiple places within the Quran that are derived from the Talmud earlier to Muhammad. And so Muhammad seems to have thought, assuming that he wasn't some sort of creation or a manipulated figure, he seems to have thought that he was legitimately like combining together this new, true, purified religion. I mean, I think he was crazy, but if that thesis is not correct, then he was perhaps like maybe a circle of like warlords who saw a way to pick and choose from these religions to create a situation where a very crafty, cunning caliph or leader can utilize Islam in whatever way that he needs. Does that make sense? Like you have medieval caliphs who can say stuff like, Christians are the people of the book, Jews are the people of the book with us, we need to be at peace with them. But then when they also need to flip the script, they can say, well, the book, the Prophet Muhammad tells us that when the time is necessary, we can just attack and kill the Jews and the Christians. You see what it's very useful as a opportunist machine when you need it. That's what I'm trying to say. So could there be like a secret elite in the background? What's interesting is that Shia Islam, which is very different from like the other branches in terms of the structure. So Shia Islam is what's in Iran. Like Shia is very mystical. They have this idea of like a succession of leaders that are kind of like popes to them, like a papal version of Islam. And they also believe in like these hidden imams. So I would say in Shia Islam, there is the possibility of like a secret, mystical, Gnostic inner core group, because they actually kind of believe that. I don't know if they actually have that, but I think that that's possible within Shia Islam.
It is so crazy to me that, the implications of like the British Empire basically just completely making up something to control a region. What was before Islam was introduced, do you know what the religion of that area was?
It was pagan, just straight up polytheism. And this is like this is admitted that like, now there were some Christians and Jews in Medina at the time, but the predominant religion at Mecca was like this place where they basically would have all the gods. So everybody would come and do like a religious pilgrimage there. They're all pagans. but it's a city where there are also Jews and Christians that lived in the city. They didn't care about Mecca, but the Arab pagans would come to Mecca for whatever reason and just sort of like do their deity's homage in whatever way. It was also kind of a big, economic center too, because it's a place for people to go and trade and so forth. So it wasn't just religious, but I think it just became a fertile grounds for the evolution of this religion, whatever the real reason for it was. In other words, that's what the stone is. It's like, that's all. It was formerly just a pagan thing. Muhammad says, by the way, now it's pure monotheism. But I mean, it's the same sort of practices of, doing the march around this rock or whatever. It's obviously pagan, is what I'm trying to say. But now it's just, no, it's not pagan. It's Islam. You see what I'm saying? It's like, but the same types of practices like icons and like that, Muslims will say, well, if you're a Christian and you have an icon of Jesus, that's pagan. It's like, well, dude, you're marching around and kissing a rock. What are you talking about? Seriously, like, it's a double standard. If that makes sense.
It's just so interesting. And if we just study the playbook of this super like elite, like apex predator group, it's just like, they just love to create these mindsets that just clash with each other constantly fighting with each other so that no one can ever come together and agree like, hey dude, we're not each other's enemies. But if you constantly get everything into a religious war, you'll never have peace ever. It's so crazy to me listening to you tell me about how they just went in there and just created this religion and just basically manipulated these people.
Well,
it's so crazy.
So Islam already exists as this very militant type of Arab religion, desert.
Before Muhammad?
No. I'm saying before British Empire, obviously, right? So what the British did was very effectively at the turn of the century, they developed this new domain called the Orientalists. And this is basically a bunch of academics who were also spies who went and basically mastered these cultures, these Orientalist academics at Oxford, Cambridge, right? These elite British institutions. And this is where you kind of get the modern version of ethnography and spycraft. So today's, CIA people studying cultures, it's really developing out of this British imperial model of, St. John Philby goes and studies and basically immerses himself in, Arab culture, becomes essentially a sheikh. And then he's like the expert to the British establishment on all things Saudi, right? Same thing with
he established the House of Saud. Is that basically what we're saying?
Well, to be the kings of that area for the British Empire. Because it was supposed to be there was a war between the Hashemites, who are the rulers of Jordan to this day, right? So if you go to the Kingdom of Jordan, they're the Hashemites, which is another faction of Muslims. They were fighting with the Sauds to be, quote, king of the Arabs. And so the CIA, interestingly, right after this period when the British Empire wanes, when the CIA takes over, originally they thought they wanted to have the same model of what was called pan-Arabism. And they thought if we could have Arab nationalism and we could establish kind of like a modern, industrialized, updated version of Islam for the Middle East, these people could advance and they could have, universities and swimming pools and like whatever, is technology, jobs, corporations, whatever. But then you got this other group within Western intelligence, British or U.S. intelligence said, no, we don't want that. We're going to go with the older British model of supporting radical Islam. And that's why the CIA started supporting, like British intelligence had for a while, Wahhabism. You see what? So in other words, they experimented with both trying to update and have like a progressive Islam for the Middle East. That's where you get places like, you've seen those pictures, I'm sure, where like Iran has at one point universities and women walking around without burqas. And you see pictures of Syria when the Baathists came to power and they set up basically universities. They modernized. But then the radical Muslims opposed all of that. at the behest of other members of the CIA and people who wanted to say, no, let's just go with the radical Muslim approach because that's much better as a weapon, right? To hold back and to destroy and to, to do whatever they want to do.
Bro,
So-
that's the most real shit I've ever heard, dude. That is the
I don't know,
most
this is
real
like
shit I've
if you-
ever. That explains everything that's going on
Yeah.
everywhere.
Well, and
this
it also,
this might be the same thing. Would you say that they influenced the Shia and the Shui in any kind of way?
well,
In what sense, XG?
so like what I'm talking about is like the Salafi or the Wahhabi, that's radical Islam that's Sunni. So within Sunni Islam, you have like these really strict schools. Think about it like schools within a bigger, broader thing. So everything that's not Iran and Shia is typically Sunni. And then what's Sunni is like the mainline biggest numbers of Islam. It's like 90% or something. And within that, you have these schools that range from kind of like more liberal interpretations of the Quran and the Hadith, all the way over to like the most extreme ISIS type stuff. So what I'm trying to say is that the West, a large part of Western intelligence, probably also Israeli and British intelligence, they said at a certain point around the 1960s and 70s, we need to shift over to aligning ourselves more with the super radical Muslims and Muslim Brotherhood, which British intelligence was already using, Muslim Brotherhood, radical Muslims, because that would be a better way to wreck shit,
Yes, dude.
keep this stuff like from not advancing.
Yes, and I think that's kind of what's happening in the United States right now. They went one way, they kind of built it up to see how it goes, and now I think they're just trying, like you're saying, I've said this forever. The woke left is the ISIS of the United States. They're just well-funded radicals set to destabilize.
Well, the same people that have imported and want more and more Islamic presence in the UK and in America are the same people pushing the woke left. And the left and Islam align for cross purposes. That actually goes again back to British intelligence in the 1920s and 30s. The Fabian socialists in the UK said, let's bring in Muslims into the UK, but we got to start not with the radicals, not with the sort of Wahhabi, Athari Sunnis. Let's start with Sufis because they're mystical and they're cool and they're sort of new agey. So they brought into the universities. There's a whole chapter on this, which is great in the Milner Fabian conspiracy book. They brought into the British universities all these Sufis, and that prepared a lot of the UK for accepting Islam. Now, fast forward to today, you've got Islamic mayors. You've got it's called Londonistan. I've been to the UK, and it's like Muslim everywhere, right?
Johnny, you were just there, right?
Yeah, just a few months ago. I mean, I said this back then. It's like what it's a dystopian future of the United States,
Exactly.
both London and Paris. If we follow the path that we're on now,
Exactly.
for the most part, that's where
the same people who made those decisions and ran that crap for the UK are the same people that now run our country and are making the same decisions for our country.
To what end, though? I mean, because they live here. They're going to suffer the consequences of these decisions.
I don't
they don't believe Islam. Islam's just a tool.
I know. That's why I'm. To what end? I mean, because I think. I mean, it seems obvious that society will crumble with that kind of division.
If you're a Fabian socialist or one of these sort of elite technocrat minded people, you have no problem with society crumbling. That's part of it. You need it to crumble to bring in the new order. So I think
so the idea is to replace it with technocracy. I got it. Okay.
Yeah, Islam is like a broom that's used to like sweep up and destroy. Even though they don't believe Islam, and
more like a vacuum cleaner, and then I think sucked up too. But
and you can even find elite, whether they're far left elite technocrats, atheists, and even like you can find rabbis who will say, "We don't care if like Muslims go and destroy." I mean, they're doing that work for us. So
you're so right, bro. You're so right, and It's just they just keep using the same game plan over and over and over again. Even if you take a look at like what the U.S. government, what the Canadian government did to the indigenous, they just keep using that game plan over and over again. They did it to black people in the inner city, and now they're doing it to basically big cities. They're flooding it with drugs. They're empowering females into jobs, taking away jobs from men, and men are identified by their jobs and their paycheck. You take that away, men are lost, flooding drugs. So now they're on drugs. You throw dads in jail. And you just see it done over and over and over again. So now we take what you're saying, what they did to the Middle East, bang, now they're doing the UK, and now they're going to do it over here. And it's the same people over and over and over again. And it kind of goes back to exactly along the lines of what G. Edgar Griffin says in this this movie he did called The Capitalist Conspiracy. The people at the very top, they're not, and this is what I say, and I get yelled at by everybody. The people at the very top are way beyond the Abrahamic religions. They're like these dark gods, dark pagan, fallen angel worshipers, and they're manipulating us at every moment. And then on top of that, you use the Babylonian money magic that is the Federal Reserve, where you just print money and bribe everybody. It's so insane, and it's just done over and over and over and over again. It's crazy to me. Hey guys, real quick, I want to tell you about our friends at Orgain, the protein-packed shake full of nutrition. Let me tell you about them. Listen, man, you know I'm trying to get in shape. You know I'm trying to work out. I'm trying to lose this perma-fat, and I'm healthy, but I'm not hardcore about it. I just want to incorporate better habits into my life, like getting more nutrition in my diet, and our next sponsor is a big part of that, okay? I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Orgain, which makes it easy to do just that. Orgain is a leader in real protein powder nutrition that understands that being good for you doesn't mean you have to taste bad. Orgain's founder, Dr. Andrew Abraham, believes that real nutrition has the power to make a difference in people's life. Abraham left his medical practice and founded Orgain to create foods and beverages that offer better nutrition for people everywhere. Listen, I work out all the time, and if I don't get the proper nutrition, my body gets wrecked. You know, I'm doing jujitsu, I'm doing Thai boxing, I'm learning to kill with my hands, okay? I'm getting ready for the zombie apocalypse, and I gotta get the right protein in, and that's where Orgain comes in. Holla at your boy. Guys, do you guys love it?
I love it. I haven't told you, but I love taking it right before tinfoil hat because you need some protein for your brain. That's it. That's how I come in with these good questions sometimes. Thanks to them.
I love it.
Yeah, and I know, Sam, you've been starting doing more weightlifting. I've been doing some weight training, and protein's the key to that. From everything I've read, protein is the key to making gains. So, and there's nothing more convenient than having it in a bottle of Orgain.
So listen, check out Orgain's 30-gram protein packs. They are available at Costco or Orgain.com. If you want to get in on delicious protein-packed nutrition today, head to Orgain.com/tinfoil hat and use the code tinfoil hat for 20% off your order. Once again, that's Orgain.com/tinfoil hat for 20% off, and make sure you use the promo code tinfoil hat so they know we sent you.
You're not really supposed to talk about this, but everybody talks about the Kalergi plan. Quigley says the Kalergi plan was adopted by the Royal Society, which is to replace the existing people groups with other large people groups, create a big blob where there's no actual in-group, out-group preferences, make everybody into a big blob, and they're much easier to control. He absolutely does say this, and I bought the book, Practical Idealism by Count Kalergi. Quigley says that was adopted by the Royal Society plan to essentially destroy the existing Europe and turn it into a giant socialist blob. Now, what's the best way to do that? What's the best way to do that in Europe? Well, what foreign people group would love to come in and take over and destroy Islam? So the importation of Muslims in mass to Europe and to the UK, which the Fabian socialists literally said they wanted to do and would do by design.
My God.
They admitted that. And guess what? Same thing in the US, except the Muslim stuff's a little slower because it's a little it takes a while to get Muslims into America, but obviously the open border is part of that in America. But yeah, I mean, if you read Kalergi himself, because people say, "Oh, you're not supposed to talk about that. It's an evil conspiracy theory." I've got his freaking book right here. He says it. He says, "Yes, destroy and dilute the existing people, turn it into a giant blob, then it will fit into a world government."
I mean, look at Canada. Canada's full of it too.
Yeah.
Great point.
I
Yeah,
mean, it's just
yeah.
crazy to me that once again, as it always is, we just have the theory of something is worse than real world consequences, right? It's just like the theory of hate, which is, it's so crazy because someone just tweeted me about that plan, the Kalergi plan.
Oh, yeah.
Just tweet me about it. I looked it up. I'm like, oh, how can we sit there and say this is anti-Semitic when we see it happening in real life? And the theory of what could come by discussing this versus what's actually happening on a street level is like unbelievable to me. That's like my argument with a good friend of mine about 9/11. It's just like, oh, dude, this is anti-Semitic. But I'm like, but 4.5 million people died because we bought a lie about what happened that day. How is the theory? If you play out the tape, what do you think's going to happen if we discuss all the different intelligence agencies involved? And it's so crazy you bring it up. So everyone's like, Saudi Arabia is involved with it. That's basically British intelligence from what you're telling me. So here we got Mossad, we got British intelligence through Saudi Arabia. We have the CIA. And like, if we have this discussion, according to them, we're going to have there's going to be trains and goose stepping. When in reality, 4.5 million people that had nothing to do with this attack all died.
Right.
It's so crazy to me.
Well, yeah, and why is that anti-Semitic? Arab people also derive genetically from Shem. They're Semitic peoples.
Oh, dude.
So it's just a deflection to call everything anti-Semitic and hate and all that. Yeah. By the way, the fact that somebody again, if Kalergi himself writes about this plan, and Quigley, who has no interest in genetics and racial theories or whatever, Quigley says that they adopted the Kalergi plan. I mean, that's what tells you what the Fabian socialist elite of Europe and in the UK adopted as their model. And so it has nothing to do ultimately with, genetics of people in the Middle East. It has to do with imperial control. I'm not saying that they don't utilize genetics in tribal warfare, but at the imperial control level, like you said, Sam, like David Rockefeller, Lord Rothschild, they don't care about people's. They're not, I believe Islam. I believe they're above that. They're using it as a tool.
So, okay. Honestly, Jay, that was one of the best conversations we've ever had on this show. That was like so insanely informative. It's amazing to me. So I want to kind of get into some weird stuff right now here with you.
Dude, I don't know if you've seen my talks on this, but
sex what? Sex espionage? Yeah, dude.
That's right up your alley. Let's get dirty here.
I mean, dude, it is so crazy to me how sex is just this tool of control. It's crazy to me. And, I know that, again, you're Orthodox. I am learning Christianity right now. Johnny is Christian. We don't know what XG. What are you? Are you just here for?
No, I grew up Catholic, baptized and everything.
Okay. And our like our society's view on sex, where it's like there's no normalcy. It's completely, shoved into the corner, or it's like it's got to be everywhere in insanity. There's no middle ground there. And I think if we got to a place in the middle ground, there'd be a lot less blackmailing going on. I feel like right. So much of like the taboo of sex is used to control people. Regardless of what your sexuality is and all that, that's not the discussion right now. But like the make things taboo, is a means for control. And here we go. We see it happening over these intelligence agencies using sex, using people who will like it a little bit weird, using them to manipulate the masses.
Well, I mean, I'm sure you've been keeping up with the Diddy stuff. I mean, this is really just a total vindication of everything that we theorized in terms of, like, Hollywood mind control, eyes wide shut parties. Like, it's all like totally out there in the open. Basically, you've got Diddy running a blackmail version of a blackmail, right? Blackmail with a blackmail.
Blackmail.
Basically Blackstein, right? He's basically Jeffrey Blackstein. So I mean, it's Epstein, but for the rap sphere. And it's not just Diddy. We know it's Clive Davis. It goes up higher than that. That's really where he was probably learning all of that. Just like Epstein was learning this from Robert Maxwell, the famous, Cold War spy and sex compromiser, who's Ghislaine's dad. So these are, again, like techniques that are sort of passed on from these higher, older level people. I mean, I haven't kept up with like what you've said about Diddy, but like, about Clive Davis and all that, right? The music industry.
Yeah, and there's someone even higher, right? There's like one guy that's even higher.
Be,
that is like he basically controls 70% of the like top 100 songs on whatever list. Like, I forget what his name is, but they've all been named in this into control. And it's just crazy to me because, we have the discussion. What is okay. So a lot of people think the Hawk Tuohy girl is controlled ops. They think she's a controlled plant, and it's meant to move her in certain positions. I always go, well, we won't know until we see her start saying some ridiculous shit to manipulate people.
I agree. Yeah.
How she's the number 3 podcast, in the world, which kind of isn't actually what it means. That means that a bunch of people are signing up for a podcast, subscribing. It doesn't actually mean that they're listening, right, Johnny? It's kind of
it's based on reviews. It's a formula based on reviews and new subscriptions. The iTunes rankings, at least. I assume the other like Spotify and the other services.
Which is a bunch of people running to subscribe for, it is what it is.
I mean, I can't imagine. It's interminable. Have you tried to listen to any of it? I can't imagine listening to it for more.
I can't imagine it being listenable at all.
No.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, how long is that going to last? How long is that going to last, right? But they think that she's a plant. And you go, what is the purpose of this? What is the purpose of blackmail? What is the purpose of controlling these stars? What is your thoughts on why? I can understand politicians, right? And it's why I think that you're probably never going to see the Jeffrey Epstein list, and or see anyone brought to justice for that. Right. But I think you're more likely to see the P. Diddy people brought to justice. But what are your thoughts on why they want to control entertainers?
I think one easy way to understand, and one parallel, is organized crime and mafia. If you look at the way organized crime and mafia works, like I just did another interview with Sammy the Bull the other day, and we kind of went into some of this. Like, I was asking him, so as a famous hitman mob dude, like, what is your view of the city and the world and society? And he went into a lot of depth about chess games and control, manipulation, psychological tricks, and so forth from the criminal perspective, which was very insightful. And I think if you take him as kind of a microcosm explaining that lifestyle in that world, expand that up to people like what we're talking about, these higher level corporate elite people, it's the same mindset. It's like, look, any of these areas or domains is going to be susceptible to high level criminal operations and control. And one of the reasons why the sexuality side of it is so tempting is that, think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. He was working with, as part of MK Ultra, when he drew up that list of needs, and he was drawing that up so that the CIA could say, what are the basic motivators for human beings to control them? Now, originally that was drawn up in a way to try to figure out psychological profiles of world leaders. So the original thing was, the CIA was saying, hey, we need some way to like classify the basic motivations for any human being, and then we'll particularize it based on what is Putin really like, right? What does whoever, President Mumbai. What is he? What's his proclivities? And so if you think about the hierarchy of needs, like sex is pretty high up there after food, right? So you're not really going to compromise people on how many Totino's pizza rolls they're eating, but you could compromise them on if they like butt stuff, right? So especially decades before it was normalized to like butt stuff, or if you like underage children, that's right, that's easy. So I think it's always, because prostitution is the world's second oldest profession.
It's the oldest.
I'm sorry, prostitution is the oldest, spying is the second oldest. These two go together, right? And so it's just always been very beneficial to power elite to get dirt, to get information. It just naturally kind of folds over into any domain where criminals can rise to power. If it's the music industry, if it's Hollywood, if it's government, you're going to have people trying to get dirt. Blackmail is just natural.
It's so crazy to me, right? And it's just like it's been done over and over and over and over and over again.
Here's something I don't understand. It's like, so the public is just now learning about this stuff, which obviously has been going on for a long time at the government and elite level. So did people, like, if you're an elected senator, right? Like, was nobody briefing anyone on the possibility of this? Nobody was telling, you know what I mean? Like famous basketball players, like, hey, you might get invited to the butt party. Just watch out. Like, you know what I mean? Like nobody told anybody.
No, it's like, dude, I completely and utterly agree, man. It is absolutely insanity to me. It's absolutely insanity to me. It's like, and I think the whole thing is like, if you go to these parties, you really got to watch yourself, because you'll get drugged and then you'll wake up and there'll be a naked little girl in your thing. And then they compromise you, which is why, if you kind of look at there's no term limits in Washington. Once you have somebody blackmailed, you keep them there forever. It's crazy to me. And it's just like when we get into like, I think Jennifer Lopez is knee deep in this P. Diddy shit. And you get, because all this stuff's starting to come out about how she's not really a good singer. This thing just came out about how like people would sell her songs and then they send her tracks on how it's supposed to sound, and you're not supposed to use the tracks. And Jennifer Lopez is just using all the tracks, and she's just sing, which is classic P. Diddy, right? Just take someone else's song and just put a you know, around it, and suddenly it is your song, right? And so it's starting to come out, but like they're like well-known people are in these videos, dude. And it's like, how crazy did it get? Like, to me, it's like fame. Like I always wanted to be a working comedian, but I never thought I would do insane shit to get there. And it's just like the level of psychopath that comes to get at the highest levels of certain entertainment, like being a touring band, like pop singer. It's so competitive. Why you over these other people? Well, what are you willing to do?
What are you willing to do? Yeah, exactly.
But okay, you said, I think some people actually wanted to go. They literally knew that they wanted to go, and I wanted to go to the after party. I don't even want to stay at the normal party. Have you seen the Netflix thing called Baby Reindeer?
No.
It's crazy. This guy actually knows it's going to happen to him, and he keeps going to this director's house knowing that he's going to get molested, hoping that one day
he does.
Hoping that one day he comes through with the promise, and the guy never comes through with the promise. This guy gets molested for like, I don't know how long per se.
Bro,
people don't care.
That is insane, because I'm not getting the specifics, but basically all of these Weinstein chicks were like that. They're like, I just thought this is what you did to make it in Hollywood, and then nothing happened to them, and they all were just like bitching, like, I blew him and his friends and nothing happened. You're like, sounds like horrible blowjobs.
Well, here's a funny thing. So I was on, quite frankly, I think last year, and we did a whole review of the Godfather novel, right? The original Mario Puzo novel. So we read that. We did a whole series of podcasts going through the novel. Dude, I didn't realize that all the stuff we're talking about, it's in the Godfather novel. So if you remember when they go to the producer in Hollywood who's going to make that movie, and then the nephew of Don Corleone, right? Who's actually supposed to be, he's supposed to be Frank Sinatra. The character is based on Frank Sinatra. He wants to be in this movie role,
Yes.
and the director doesn't want to give it to him. So the Godfather, as you know, ends up sending the cutting the horse's head off, putting in this famous scene where the horse is in the bed and all that, which convinces the director to put the Frank Sinatra guy in the movie. In the novel, like when Don Corleone's lawyer goes and talks to the Hollywood dude, there's a sequence where it's like it's identified that this is a pedo thing going on. Like when the lawyer gets there, there's a young girl, way underage, who leaves the producer's house office after being molested. So in other words, he's telling you that Hollywood's pedo. Everybody knows it's a casting couch. In fact, in the novel, it also talks about the other Hollywood people that had to sleep with whoever to get. Who doesn't know about the casting couch, right? But in the novel, it also has the pedo stuff. And if you remember in Godfather 2, the movie, not the novel, the movie, because the novel ends at like, it doesn't go that far. But in Godfather 2, the movie, do you remember that the Corleones want to expand to Vegas? And in Vegas, there's this senator who doesn't want to give them the right to set up the casinos. He's blocking the legal ability for them to set up a casino. What do? They wait until he goes to one of the Corleone whorehouses. They drug the senator. He wakes up in the bed with a dead prostitute.
Oh my God.
And then he's forever in the pocket of the Corleone. So that's just the organized crime angle of it in movies, telling you how it really works. Because Mario Puzo based all that on like real shit. And I asked Sammy the Bull about all that. It's like, yeah, it's all real.
It's so, I mean, dude, it's deep, man, because, again, like when I talk about like the war between Trump and the establishment, I don't think there's really good guys in that fight. I just think it's two crime organizations fighting over control of the purse on who gives out who gets the deals, who gets the contracts. And if you sit in that seat, you give out the contracts. And I think Trump he's actually wants to be president versus Kamala Harris, who's just like happy with being there. Like she really just wants a Kardashian in it. You're president, but you're not going to really do anything. You're just going to run around and give speeches and make money and take pictures and get free shit.
I mean, she seems like nobody's even home. Like,
yeah,
her and that Tim Walz dude just seem like total, just like somebody called them Muppets or something. Like they're like Muppets. Like there's nobody there, like a puppet, but it's like a total Muppet. Yeah.
But like this is the Roman Empire. They put a mannequin in, and outside influences run everything, which is basically who's bigger. Blinken got named like one of the most powerful Jews in the world by like Israel magazine. Like,
is that a thing they do? They rank the Jews? That's great. Right.
Yeah, he's like a top. I think he was like a top 10 Jew.
2024.
Top 10 Jews.
Dude, you want to? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. Go on.
No, there's a great. Everybody missed this series. Okay, so John le Carré, who's the famous British intelligence, former British intelligence, who wrote a bunch of famous fiction stories. Right, he wrote the Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy story, which is loosely based on the Cambridge spy ring. He wrote that novel, which became the Gary Oldman movie, the famous movie. So he wrote the series, which came out like 2018. I didn't see anybody talking about it. Totally forgotten, but it's got Michael Shannon. It's got Florence Pugh, the blonde chick from that pagan human sacrifice movie. I forget what it's called. Midsommar.
Oh, yeah.
So there was this series that Hulu or Paramount Plus, I forget who, they did this series. Everybody should watch. It's pretty crazy, but it's about Mossad operations. And it's like, dude, this shit is crazy, right? So le Carré wrote the story, and he's, as a British intelligence guy, criticizing the sort of Mossad operation, but he thought it was a good story. It's all set in relationship to PLO, Israel, Lebanon. It's set in the late 70s, early 80s. Probably a combination of like a bunch of real sort of Mossad versus Hezbollah, Lebanon, PLO type stories all in one story. But that's an awesome series. Like just from a insight window into what really goes on type of perspective.
Little Drummer
Everybody
Girl.
should watch that. Let me pull up the name of it. But do you
Little
know what
Drummer Girl, right?
That's it, Little Drummer Girl. Exactly. Everybody should watch that. That's crazy. Very insightful though.
It's so nuts to me, dude. And like here we are, the you know, I'm gladly will say I'm a Pizzagate guy. Said since the start. We'll still sit here and go 100% true. A lot of people get tabooed. Oh no, that's it. I mean, dude. I mean, you got P Diddy right now getting sued for drugging 9-year-olds,
Oh wow.
and you're telling me that they couldn't do stuff in a basement with kids? I mean, like, because they're serving pizza? Is that what you're telling me?
Dude, remember that governor who was like, Alex always plays this clip that he's like the Virginia governor. He's like, we keep the new babies, we put them on life support. We keep them really comfortable, and then we put them to death, and then we sell and harvest the organs. Do you know what I'm talking about? This
No,
governor?
what?
No, yeah. No, remember when Alex was and Eddie were arguing their fake argument on Rogan? Remember that? And then Eddie came and put Alex in a headlock, and they were pretending like they were fighting. They were this was the clip that Alex was talking about when he's like, pull it up. There's Governor of Virginia saying we keep the babies alive, we harvest organs, sell it. And then Eddie was joking, but he was like, no, dude, that don't exist. And they were having that fake fun fight. This is the clip that they were talking about. If I remember, it's like the governor of Virginia is talking about. So what I'm saying is, like, dude, if they'll put babies on ice and then harvest the organs of babies, what you think they won't do all this other crazy shit? What are you talking about?
And nobody wants to talk about because it's so dark. They can't even
exactly
get
right.
into it.
Yeah.
You know, we just had a guy come on talking about what they're doing in Flint. It's so dark what they're doing in Flint, Michigan. And
yeah.
when you have that Professor Dyson yelling about, you know, oh, you said Kamel's name wrong. That is racism, and it just goes on this word salad you just know he uses to pull white pussy. He just guilts white chicks and giving up pussy by calling them racist in a way they don't even know what he's talking about.
Have you tried that game? Have you spit some of that game, Sam?
You don't understand. You're the fact that you are not fornicating with me.
Sam goes into Starbucks. He's like, dude, you're all racist. You should identify as some minority and then like act like the baristas being you know what I mean?
I've got that clip here if you just want to.
Yeah, let's watch it.
Briefly. I think I've queued it to the right point. Just a second. Let me get the sound shared.
Yeah, Alex plays this clip all the time. I can't remember which governor it is.
Is it right? Northam?
I think that's it's Northam. That's him. Yeah.
Tell me if you...
The infant would be kept comfortable. The infant would be resuscitated if that's what the mother and the family desired, and then a discussion would ensue between the physicians and the mother. So I think this was really blown out of proportion. But again, we want the government not to be involved in these types of decisions. We want the decision to be made by the mothers and their providers, and this is why, Julie, that legislators, most of whom are men, by the way, shouldn't be telling a woman what she should.
This is
be doing
the
with
clip
her
of him
body.
explaining
think
the viral clip. This is him trying to explain away what he had said earlier.
Yeah, I
Okay.
can't. Well,
So this is like the whitewash.
I'm sure they wiped it off the internet.
No,
Yeah, you probably have to find
As
that
you know,
on
the issue of
Twitter.
abortion rights emerges every year in the General Assembly session. This year, no exception.
Link from
There was
the
a very
original clip.
contentious committee hearing yesterday when Fairfax County Delegate Kathy Tran made now in
Stop.
place, even as a woman.
What's so crazy to me
I'll see if I can.
is how they whether it's just through like MK Ultra on a mass scale, or it's the chemicals that they're putting in our food that we're eating that's shish kebabbing our brains, but the way they can manipulate us into just getting behind certain movements, it like the way they've convinced progressive white women or progressive women at all that the single issue is abortion, that nothing around that, nothing else matters. No matter how expensive the gas gets, no matter how expensive the groceries get, no matter how bad the crime gets, no matter how bad the city gets, no matter none of that matters. The only thing that matters is whether they can have an abortion or not, and they'll allow everything else to burn to save that one thing. It's incredible to me.
I'd have to get at least one a year for me to care enough.
You would have to have at least one
if I was a
abortion.
female, I'm like, why do you, unless you're getting them, like, why do you really unless you already have kids, I'm like, why do you even promote it till it's crazy? Oh, I think that's crazy.
I think it's just nuts to me.
It is crazy. This is like, it reminds me of what Tim Leary was saying, like when he was saying, I couldn't get people to take LSD back when I first was trying to dole it out. He said, so what I figured out was if I couch this as a right, that you're being oppressed into not exercising, he said, then everybody wanted to become LSD activists. They wanted to experiment with it because they felt, oh, the government's trying to keep me from it. So for whatever reason, probably Tavistock or, SRI, or they figured out that when you couch things as a right, people feel like they're way more energized for whatever reason to act on it.
It's like weed. They legalize weed and kids aren't smoking it as much anymore.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, dude. It's like that how they can manipulate us into caring about certain things.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's just crazy to me. So I don't want to keep you here forever, but there's just two more things I want to talk about with you. Who is Jacques Alerius? I butchered that name. The books, I saw one of your things. Globally operative Jack, what is their name? That person's.
What did I put? I'm trying to remember what I wrote in the email. Let me see.
Something globally operative.
Jacques Attali.
Yeah. Okay. Close enough.
Oh yeah. Jacques Attali. Yeah. So basically, I covered his books recently. He's really important because he's like, he's called the Kissinger of France. So basically, what Kissinger was to America, Attali was to multiple French presidents, like as the background sort of handler. And France is not like the most important country in the world, but they're overlooked for some of the things that they're involved in when it comes to the New World Order. There's a lot of kind of weird deep state type stuff with France and weapons technology that people don't know. France has a lot of companies and groups that are involved in that. That's nobody ever talks about that. That's really under the radar. But of course, France has played a key role in, historically at least, being at the front of the march towards technocracy and the global world order. They've had some of the top technocrats come from France, Auguste Comte, people like that. Some of the top, most famous Marxists are from out of France. French Revolution is a bunch of those characters. And we just saw the Olympics in France. Actually, the ceremonies were all symbolic portrayals of this Luciferian sort of satanic Marxist socialist victory. That's the meaning of all of those ceremonies. I did a bunch of breakdowns, a bunch of different podcasts on that. I don't know if you guys probably saw that, right? Everybody was talking about that at the Olympics.
Mithras, right? Mithras.
All that worship. Shit. Oh, it's crazy. Yeah.
And now is Mithras from Zoroastrianism?
No, the Mithra cult was like a Roman Empire, unique to the Roman Empire, where they kind of brought in this like baptism of blood, and it was a mystical cult where you could like.
And it involves trans.
Eleusinian mysteries. Yes, exactly. There's a really good. We did a whole lecture through this Cambridge Companion to Western Mysticism and Esotericism.
Dude, I love when you grab books.
Dude,
it's
the first chapter is about Mithras and the Eleusinians, and that shit's wild. What all they were into back then. They were doing MK Ultra stuff back then. Dude, it was crazy.
Sorry to interrupt. You brought up France. What do you think about Bridget Macron?
Oh, that like remember Macron was in like Rothschild circles. And then
she is a Rothschild, they think.
Yeah. I think so. There's some connection like that. But so they'll choose these people like Macron, and then Jacques Attali is probably still consulting all those. He's probably still consulting. So anyway, the reason he matters is that he's one of these European technocratic elite. He's got a lot of famous quotes going around about stabbies that he said a long time ago, and that they would be mandated. People dispute whether the stabbies comment is real. It's hard to know because it supposedly comes from an old French interview, which who knows if it's real or not. But anyway, in his books, he basically says all the same shit. So it's like okay, so maybe that interview is not real, maybe it is, but like he says all the same stuff in his books. In 1991, he wrote a book called The Millennium, Losers and Winners in the New World Order. And basically he says now that the wall has fallen, Berlin Wall, there's no power dialectic between East and West anymore. He says now we can enter into the next phase of the New World Order. And he says, he was put at the head of the ECB, European Common Bank, to restructure and bring all of the Soviet bloc countries into the neoliberal world order, make them all IMF debt slaves. That doesn't make the Soviet Union good. It just means that you go from you're under Beelzebub, now you're under Lucifer, right? So they're just changing demons that you're under. And then he's like in charge of restructuring the former Soviet countries into EU, putting them into debt slavery. And he says in the book, get ready for mass open border immigration throughout Europe and the West. You will all be reorganized into a giant new world order, basically, in 1991, as the Kissinger of France. So he's just another one of these global elite goons. He wrote a different book that I lectured through a couple times over the years. It's called Brief History of the Future. He wrote that in 2006, 15 years after the 1991 book. And in that book, he just says like where we are now. Like everything he was saying in 1991 basically was what was started happening in the 2000s. In the 2006 book, Brief History of the Future, is basically where we are now. I mean, he's got a whole chapter on transhumanism. It's like you're going to go into there's going to be a hive mind. There's going to be a giant global golem. You're going to be hooked into it. It's everything.
So crazy, dude.
It shows that they planned this from that level for a long time.
And do you think it's all Luciferian, Baal worship, Moloch worship?
Well,
do you think
for
that's
him, so in the book, he uses Masonic symbolism. He says that the Cold War was like two pillars that balance out the world order. He says once the Soviet Union fell, he says that's one pillar falling. And he says that it's two pillars in a pyramid, and the pyramid is the world structure. But they have a controlled, the way he describes it like a dialectic. He's using intentional Masonic symbolism in the book. And at the end of the book, he says, in the 1991 book, he says, we got to have a new covenant, a new Mount Sinai, a new world religion. He says all that kind of gibberish, like they always say. And in the 2006 book, it's like straight up Golem. That's his term, like Golem, Kabbalah Golem. So yeah, Luciferian, though, sure.
So I get into this, like, like we've had a lot of people come on talking about Trump as Kabbalist, mystic. What are your thoughts on that? Like, like this, we just had a show about breaking down Hermeticism, and I didn't know that Hermes was the child of Nimrod and all that stuff. What is your thoughts on all that?
So there was an old 1990s book that Trump in the first chapter, I forget the name of the book, but in the first chapter, he says something like, oh, I have a friend who's like a Kabbalah rabbi, and I would like to thank him for something. I don't get the impression that Trump really understands or is really deep into that stuff. I mean, I could be wrong. I don't have a problem criticizing Trump. I think he's definitely just pragmatically better than Kabbalah Harris. I'll call her Kabbalah.
I'm with
Harris.
you on,
How about Kabbalah Harris? Nobody said that one yet.
I have Robbie
strike
Martin.
you as anything? I mean, religious or spiritual? He doesn't strike me as much of.
I mean, he kind of seems to like, evangelicals are great. Oh, the Episcopalians are great. I love Catholics. Look at St. Michael. He's wonderful. Probably the best of all the angels, really. I mean, it's like he's probably whatever's expedient,
right? Like a pragmatist, like you said.
Yeah. I mean, he could, maybe he's sincere about it. I don't know, but I don't get the impression that like he's super schooled in Kabbalah to like know, he doesn't come off as somebody who really cares that much about that stuff.
It's interesting for sure, man. I think the world's ran by sorcerers, and they're all just playing this sorcery game. But like Hermeticism and all that stuff, it's like very weird because you study it and you go like, if you think about something long enough, you can make it happen, which is manifestation. Is that dark? Is that evil? And like, if you had to go in who runs the world, who do you think runs the world at the highest levels?
So I think there are demonic entities. I think that they do in a limited sense, run the world. I think that ultimately God's in control. I don't, I'm not like a Gnostic. I don't think this world's a simulation or some evil prison or something like that. I think there is a real historical battle between good and evil. I think that underneath the spiritual entities that Paul talks about, the principalities, powers, and dominions, there are human beings who fall into a kind of a control structure, but they don't all have to know self-consciously that they're part of that. You could be a militant atheist and you're still kind of under the control, ultimately, I would say, of Satan. Even if you're an atheist, you don't believe in demons. So maybe at the highest level, some of those people, I think, probably do self-consciously think, no, I'm serving Lucifer. I mean, you would get some of the British elite seem to speak that way. I mean, these people that are like really into hurting children. If you look into like Elm Guesthouse, British MP Cyril Smith, Ed Heath, do you remember those stories of like those really wicked British MPs that were part of, you know what I'm talking about? If you look into King Cora scandal and the Elm Guesthouse and all the Savile type stuff.
Nabble.
With Jimmy
Nabble, right?
Huh?
With Jimmy
Talking about Nabble?
Say what?
Nabble? Have you heard of Nabble?
Jimmy
Is that what you're talking about?
Savile. Jimmy
I'm
Savile.
talking about Jimmy Savile,
Savile.
Cyril Smith, Ed Heath. These are famous British MPs that were like doing awful things to kids.
What was the island they were on? It was like Isle of Wight or something, wasn't
There's
it?
Isle of Wight.
Yeah.
King Cora they're also connected to the King Cora scandal. Exactly. That's the British stuff.
It's the dark. I mean, that's as dark as it gets. That shit.
That's
I think
dark as
those
it
people
gets.
I think those people probably were like, no, we actually legit serve Satan, and I'm gonna do like the most evil stuff possible.
I mean, you study that pig farmer in Canada.
Yeah, I have.
And how he was almost getting out, and someone said "fuck that," and they just went and stabbed him to death, so he couldn't leave the prison. Like, it's crazy.
Are you talking about the Picton pig farm?
Yeah, and how like Trudeau was like lived like a couple blocks away, and he was about to get out. He's up for parole, and somebody just said, "Nope, that's not happening." And they stabbed him to death in prison.
Yeah, I did a deep dive. So that dude, that like redneck retard dude, was like recruiting people, bringing them to that place where there was all these big elites coming to do, and they had like rooms with like cameras for doing all kinds of shit. You know what I mean? They ground up people and made them into like gummy bears and shit. Isn't that right?
Dude, I don't know, dude. So dark and sad.
So the bodies, that dude that went to prison that you're talking about, that weird kind of inbred looking redneck Canadian dude that took the heat, they were grinding up people and making like gummy bears out. It's just, that one's crazy, dude.
Hurt people. So something we talked about last night on Broken Sim that just dropped. First, the Old Testament, New Testament. What do you think happens from the Old Testament to the New Testament? Like, how come Johnny, what is your theory on it?
Well, I mean, it's always felt to me, and this is purely kind of feeling my way through it,
Speculative.
It's that the Old Testament is for a different kind of human, and the new covenant, the new deal between Jesus and humanity, God and humanity, is more for modern man. That's why so many of the things in the Old Testament seem savage that we hear about, the stories. It's because that was a different type of man. In those days, a different standard for a different type of man. So
the Orthodox view is similar to that. We think that God met those people at that time, kind of where they were, and introduced kind of rules and laws that were appropriate for what was expected to that people group. So in other words, it's kind of like
with them. He met them halfway.
Yeah, it's kind of like they were in a childlike state, and so certain things were tolerated which weren't intended to always be tolerated. And so in our view, everything happening in the Old Testament, everything, like all the temple, the sacrifice, all that, those are symbols and types of what Jesus himself came to fulfill and to do. So like the Passover, that's fulfilled in Christ being the Passover, or the Day of Atonement with the high priest going into the temple and sprinkling the blood. That's all, according to the book of Hebrews, fulfilled in what Jesus was doing in his ministry and his ascension. So for us, all of those things are good and true, and they're pedagogical. There's a lot of lessons there, but they all were just really kind of coming to a focal point in what the person in the ministry of Christ did within history. And so that's us fulfilled. It's still useful. It's still, prophetic in the sense of like telling us about how Christ was a Messiah. Like if there's all these messianic predictions in the Old Testament, but it had a limited pedagogical function according to Paul. According to Paul.
Jesus.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Hold on 1 second.
That was Jesus calling, going, "Hey, dude, keep the secrets.
Gone too deep.
Tell anybody. You're going too deep." Was that British intelligence hitting you up? You went way too deep on that one. I just find it interesting. I struggle with a lot of the rules of the church, but I
Sorry
love
about that.
That's okay, dude. The teachings of Jesus, like I really am resonating with it to the point where I'm just trying to be a better person. It's a struggle. I really struggle hard.
I think you can have a valid experience though, and just go with the red ink. There's these Bibles that just put Jesus in red, everything he said. I think you can have a totally legitimate Christian experience by just doing that. I think it's possible. So it's not. I get what you're saying, Sam. And there's so many things that are, especially to modern sensibilities, to modern ears, are challenging to say the least.
By the way, I don't mean to change the subject. I know that we kind of moved on, but you did touch on something. You mentioned J-Lo. I forgot to say, did you know that everybody's forgotten that she was married to Diddy? Remember that?
Yes.
They were married for like a year. And then I found an article talking about how a previous dude that J-Lo used to date or was married to for a little while, he said she was like super into voodoo.
Yes.
Oh, really?
And he was suing her.
Yeah. And then if you pay attention, Diddy's giant tattoo on his back, it's not Mary and Jesus. People think he got it's a voodoo. They're called Loa, but her name is Azuli Dantor, and she's the patron of booty stuff in the voodoo world.
Whoa.
They have a patron of booty stuff, of ass play? That's amazing.
Why do you think everyone's consumed with the beehole, Jay? What do you think it is? What is deep in the beehole that makes people go, what is going on?
I think Crowley is the explanation for that. So Crowley was all into the beehole, and he said that the eye of Horus is more beautiful than the mouth of Venus. The mouth of Venus being the vagina. And I'm not joking. He said that the reason for that is that it's much more powerful for ritual magic workings than the vagina, because you can focus your will and intention, even though it's sterile, it somehow produces like spiritual effects in his crazy system, more so than the normal male female stuff. So the beehole has a magic power according to Crowley. And I think that the modern world has more and more shifted to the beehole. I mean, look, I'll be honest. Like I'm a butt man over boobs. My wife has a nice figure. But I've always been a butt man and not a boob man. I'm not into booty holes though.
I'm not, dude. A butthole is completely overrated, dude.
Right?
There's nothing like vagina.
When you say that as the inventor of ass eating.
I did. I invented ass eating, but as a guy who invented ass eating,
gross.
I would tell you that, hey, dude, I was a young man. I mean, it was like very early.
Well,
and
I think that was your Old Testament right there. Was that
was the Old Testament of SamTripoli.
Did you know in the book of Numbers, when the Israelites go to Baal Peor and they're tempted with the Lord of open holes? That's what Baal. No, seriously, listen.
Open holes.
Yes, the word Baal Peor. Where it says
you got Sodom and Gomorrah, right? I mean, they were Sodom.
But listen, but Baal Peor is more specific because it means Lord of open holes. I'm not joking. So they were literally tempted with the Crowley type stuff in the book of Numbers.
The Lord of
so I'm saying that the same thing is going on where a society moves away from sex that's intended for having kids to sterile. And Crowley said that would be the norm in the future in his aeon, in his era. So I'm not saying he actually caused it. I'm just saying that it's a Crowleyan type of ideology and spirituality to make sexuality about just purely the booty, right? And not producing life. That's what
I totally agree. I mean, we got away from sex creating life to
Jamie. Right. So Jamie read Crowley's big. I don't know, Kenneth Grant, who's Crowley's one of his main devotees, right? So the Crowley sects. They split into two groups. There's the American branch and the British branch. The British branch was the Typhonian OTO, and Kenneth Grant was like their main writer. He wrote a book about this very thing, and the booty hole is like the tunnel. It's like the tunnels of Typhon. So they believe that there's like these spiritual passageways that certain sexual parts of the body like open up certain passageways, basically.
It has to do with nerves in your spine.
Yeah, it's like Kundalini nerve, spine type stuff.
Just crazy to me, dude.
We went from British spies to like
It was all
booty pathways, right?
All time great, bro.
I would love to see what the statues of the open holes god what look like.
Yeah, what was that like?
There's a good video about look up Baal Peor or Lord of Open Holes on video. There's a good he's a Protestant pastor, but he did like a 5-minute kind of explanation of it. It's really good explanation.
I wonder what I love that.
I don't think anybody we don't
this
really
is
know.
Just for research.
Yeah.
Well, we don't know what it looked like, but I know we did a podcast. I might have even mentioned it on your podcast, Sam, like maybe the first time. Like we were talking about the Kardashians kind of represent like a shift to the booty hole. Because you remember when they were saying that Kim's butt broke the internet? Remember that?
Yeah. It's just crazy to me. Like, and the Kardashians are like, we're talking P. Diddy. Like she's deep in on it, and like everything about them is Freemasonry, sorcery.
You remember their Christmas card they sent out when it had all that satanic symbolism in it?
Yeah,
this was like 20. Do you remember that, Jamie?
Yeah.
It was like 2015 or 16, and they sent out this Christmas card, and it was all the satanic shit in it. What?
The white checkerboard and everything on the floor and everything.
Yes. It was crazy.
Like
look up the satanic Kardashian Christmas card. That'd be crazy.
I'm just gonna be honest with you, dude. I think that this P. Diddy like scandal may bring down all the worst people, like in terms of culturally that annoy the shit out of us, and we have no clue why they're famous. Well, It just feels like they basically just worship the god of open holes.
Exactly. I think it's that one where it says vulture. You see the vulture link? It's that one.
Okay.
But it's a giant thing. It's see that? Also, look at that. The pyramid right behind her. See that?
That's a Christmas card?
Yes. Look at the weird black Jesus nude Mary thing. And then look at the pyramid behind I guess that's Kim.
Yeah, right there. Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
What is 6? What is with the kid's head right there?
I think it's numbered. Somebody's numbered the different.
Yeah, I know.
Somebody
But
put numbers
what is
on
going
there.
on?
I got you. What is that? Yeah, I think that's her child, and that's not a head. He's laying on the couch.
He's laying here. That's her kid. Yeah.
Bizarre. Yeah.
Yeah,
What
the
year
mom
was
was so dark, dude. She's so dark.
I was just thinking about that last
2011,
night. Like
2013. It was shot by David LaChapelle, so they had a legit photographer come in and shoot there.
Right.
Crazy.
So crazy.
By the way, that podcast you did, Sam, I know you're trying to wrap up. I just want to that was really good where you were talking about rap, how fake rap was, and you did that interview with the guy where you were talking about there was a whole other Biggie that was like the real Biggie. That was crazy. I didn't know any of that. That was wild.
Biggie Smalls. Now they're talking about there's a chick in one of his famous videos. The lead chick was a trans, and it's like Biggie. The Biggie Smalls is a lot like Dave. What's his face from Foo Fighters? Dave Grohl. It's just like, yeah, dude, they're talented, and even Taylor Swift. It's like they're talented, but it's completely manipulated.
It's manipulated. When you're, what I'm talking about, right? The podcast you did where, so there was like another big fat black dude from Mississippi or something.
Yeah, Notorious B1.
That's it. Yeah. And then probably what Diddy did. Let me ask you if this is right. So basically, Diddy had that, and he was like, "Look, you do this," and then he's got the dirt on Biggie, right? Because he can basically say
you control that. Oh, you stole all this.
Yeah.
And again, it's manipulation, and it's the weird thing because Biggie's, Puff Daddy came up with the basically saying is like, I'd rather work with less talented people than talented people.
Exactly.
Which is weird because Biggie Smalls is super. You see him as a kid just spitting rhymes. He's like amazing. But they just manipulated and controlled him and probably made him do some super gay shit. But like all these,
you with a Biggie too?
I mean, dude, supposedly the lead lady in the video is a trans.
Yeah, it just seems like Diddy would go for better stuff than Biggie Smalls. You know, I think he just like.
And then
he's trying to say Biggie's not a hottie, basically.
Yeah.
Ugh, just imagine the smells of gay sex with Biggie
I think
Smalls.
when you get to, I think when you get to a certain point, right, it's not about even attraction anymore. It's just pure power. You know, like it's what it seems like. They're bored of everything once you get to that point. It's just
Joe Rogan had a joke way back in the day. And it was like when I first met him, he was doing the joke at the OR in the Comedy Store. And it was everyone's talking about Hugh Hefner was doing gay shit because he gotten so many chicks. He was just bored.
Burned
right?
out.
and everyone always thought it was the most ridiculous thing. He's like, you know, it's like, oh yeah, he just got so many chicks. He wants to bang dudes. He's like, no, when you gotten so many chicks, you know what you start banging? More chicks. But then you start seeing like all the like these like that Leah Rhodes, is that her name? She's an adult film star who like had a kid by an NBA player that everyone thought was Blake Griffin. Turns out was another player. And Blake Griffin never said anything. That's how much of a G Blake Griffin is. He's like, we know it's not my kid. But she was on Michael Porter Jr. show, and she was talking about these NBA players have had so much sex that they're just into weird shit.
Oh.
They're
Dude,
just like they've done it so many times that they're just into weird stuff.
do you remember Dennis Rodman? I think Dennis Rodman was doing all this stuff way before everybody else. That's why he was like wearing dresses. He was pushing trans stuff. Dude, back in the 90s. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Of course. His own wedding.
book?
Right? He wore the wedding dress.
He wrote a book about him hooking up with the trans, and Oprah's like, I'm taking this book down.
Really?
I can't
Oh, I
believe
didn't
you
know
talked
that.
about that.
Wow.
Yeah. She was presenting it, and then she took it down because he said he was banging trans.
Whoa.
That's like
Okay.
that'd get her
That
canceled.
makes sense.
Crazy.
Today it would. Then it was
Right.
like, thank you, Oprah. Thank you. Back then. Yeah, dude. It's just super weird, bro. It's just gets weird out
Yeah,
there.
And then
really
he
is
go,
a-
and then he goes to
the
meet
icon.
with he goes and meets Kim Jong-un a couple years ago.
Yeah, that was crazy.
One of my best jokes is about how I stopped nuclear war, because me and my friend, when Dennis Rodman signed with the Lakers, they had a giant press conference, and me and my friend snuck into it at Planet Hollywood, the restaurant in Beverly Hills. We snuck in, and I asked a question. And I go, do you think you're going to start? Because Eldon Campbell's been with the Lakers forever and he's only getting better. Do you think you're going to start on the Lakers? He goes, do I think I'm going to start? I'm a 5-time world champion, defensive player of the year. And he just starts bawling right there. He starts crying, and they ended the whole conference right there. I was on Howard Stern. They played the clip on Howard Stern. He just kind of fractures after that. And next thing you know, he's in North Korea stopping nuclear war because of me, dude.
And that was your
welcome.
question? Are you serious?
That was my
Crazy.
question. I asked that question that
Wow.
made him cry that day. It was
Well, that adds new like to me. That's wild, because I just watched that so they tried to make him a Hollywood star. Remember, they put him in that Van Damme movie Double Team,
yeah.
which itself is
Wow,
insane.
I forgot about that. Wow.
No, dude, I just watched this movie. I'd never seen it. It's totally MK Ultra. It's wild. Like, this movie is insane. Like,
And
retarded.
it's huge, and he's just gone now. I mean, he had that kind of show that kind of made fun of himself, a parody of his whole career.
Him and
That show
Seagal,
is
they were
actually really
so
good.
big.
Yeah,
That show
I've
actually
heard
is
it's
big.
good, but I
That
haven't.
show is actually good.
What's it
super
called
good.
again? It's shit.
Jean-Claude Van Johnson.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah,
That show's
Claude
good.
Von Johnson.
It's actually really funny. Like, they had legit, really good comedy writers on that. It's great. And it's very meta, very like aware, satirical show. It's really good. The reason I know that is because I just did a whole like Van Damme, like super mega. I've gone through all the canon of Van Damme. I'm talking about all the way back to like his first cyborg level stuff, all the way up to where he's at now, which is wild. Anyway, we could talk about this some other time, but yeah, there's some crazy stuff going on with Van Damme. I'm not sure what to make.
Still
of it.
going on with Van Damme? Still?
Well, I don't know, man. It's just, I don't know what to think. We're gonna do a podcast coming up, a mega Van Damme stream, so we'll get into
Oh,
it.
dude, I gotta watch that mega Van Damme. But people
Van
will
Damme
never
Aganza. We'll do a
understand
Van Damme Aganza.
how big Van Damme and Seagal were.
Yeah.
They were so big, they were making movies. And now we look at them, we laugh. And I wonder if that's how we're going to look at The Rock. Do you think we'll ever look at The Rock going, dude, can you believe that?
He's a better actor than either of those guys.
I guess he's going to be more of a Schwarzenegger, right?
He's a better actor than any of those guys, to me.
Yeah.
I
Well,
mean,
you know what's funny? So Van Damme
Yeah.
didn't really seem to have very good acting skills until they made the 2012 or 2014. There was a French film that was an indie film called JCVD.
yes,
And,
yeah, I saw that. Yeah,
He actually acted really good in that. They were actually talking about he might win an Oscar for that, which is wild because
That would have
It's
been
like-
the best.
that's crazy. Yeah. But
Dude,
like,
Hollywood would never have allowed that to happen. Ever.
no, but
That's
I'm
why
saying they were
comedy has
talking
never
about it.
won. That's why comedy has
fine.
never won an Oscar, because they
Right.
just take themselves way too, never won a best movie or best actor, because they just take themselves too fucking serious.
Yeah.
Never
Well,
allowed.
JCVD probably would have only been up for best foreign film, but it's not actually a comedy. It's hard to explain. It's like a weird indie film about him and his own. It's like a meta analysis. It's got some comedy elements, but like at one point he dissociates in the story, and then he starts talking to the camera, breaks the fourth wall, start talking to the camera, starts crying, and it's just really bizarre because I don't know. There's just weird stuff going on with Van Damme. I don't know what to make of it. I don't know if it's like espionage related stuff or MK Ultra stuff, but there's something weird going on there. We're gonna try to get to the bottom of it.
Jay, you were great, man. One more time, tell them where they can find you.
You can go to jaysanalysis.com and you got access to my archives there if you subscribe. You can find me on Twitter. You can find me on YouTube, Jay Dyer. You can find me on Instagram, everywhere else, and fourth hour of the Alex Jones show every Friday. Yeah, that's it.
You know, we just had Jamie Candy on. I know you're doing live events. Do you have any live events coming up before we leave?
Well, so Jamie and I had talked about a live event again down the road, so we might have that. But the next live event will be October 25th and 26th in Florida with the Nephilim Death Squad crew. We'll have a lot of funny people out there. I'm going to be doing no actual conspiracy stuff on stage. I'm actually going to be doing comedic stuff. So it's going to be a lot of funny, goofy, crazy stuff, a lot of harassment of the audience. So you can go to Bohemian Grove, Top Lobster of Bohemian Grove, and get those tickets. And then I have another live event that you can also find on my website in the next couple of days. For Florida, and yeah, that's all I can think of right now.
Bro, you're gonna love it. I did the inaugural one where we all just kind of showed up and called it
Yes.
Bohemian Grove, and they've ran with it, and I'm super happy for them. And the Nephilim Death Squad guys are fucking crazy, and they're great, and they're killing it, and you're gonna have the best time. That club owner, you're gonna be like, "Are you a real person?" It's someone straight out of Grand Theft Auto. It's the fuck best. You're gonna
Awesome.
love it. Everyone there is so nice. It's a great club, so enjoy it, dude. Okay. And
Absolutely,
okay,
yeah.
now and you should have those dates on your website, by the way.
It'll be
please.
up, yeah. It'll be up.
Okay. Go to his website. I'll have the links below, and let's break down the episode now. All right, let's get into it. I'm gonna say right now, all-time banger. All-time banger. What are your thoughts, guys?
Is that a reason to put him up on Mount Crushmore?
Well, I am not allowed to name anybody Mount Crushmore, but what I've decided, since this will be episode 821, so we're 180, it was 79 from the thousands. So what I've decided is we will not replace anyone on the original Mount Crushmore, but we'll add more faces if people feel like there needs to be new faces on the Mount Crushmore. So that's what. So he may make the board. Okay, he may
it's
make.
just going to be a mountain with just like a whole
Just
like
faces,
a yearbook page,
just
like a
faces.
yearbook page at the end of this.
It's going to be like the Lord of Open Holes. There's just going to be a ton of faces. The Lord of 1,000 faces.
Don't Google that, please. Trust me. Don't. As much as we told you to, don't Google that.
I cannot believe that's not the name of a band. Lord of Open Holes. I don't know how that's not a band name, by the way. Easily one of the best episodes we've ever done. The breakdown of British intelligence roles in the shaping of the Middle East and Islam is one of the most insane conversations we've ever had on this show. because it fits into everything that we felt. Now we know, and it's just being done here too. Like what they do is they set it up. I think that's what they're doing to China right now, right? China seems to be like really getting their shit together, right? They're really getting their shit together. They're growing. They're becoming one of the leading economic powers in the world. And then eventually, that's not, we don't like that. And then they just tear it all down. And it's just, this is done over and over and over and over and over again. And it's just these power elites that control everything, mostly through sexual blackmail. And it's just, dude, it's insane. And what's happening in Europe is exactly what is part of a playbook.
And if it's not sexual blackmail, it's sexual boner pills that they give handed, so they bribe them with sex anyways. It's either way, it's sex is involved.
Well, that was an interesting take. I love that.
What do you mean by that?
Sexual blackmail. It's what like just giving them boner pills.
Yeah, at the end of the day, sex is always involved. You can always buy people with either giving them sex or catching them doing something sexual.
No, the other
way. What do you mean though? They're bribing people by giving them.
Yeah, explain that to us.
I just don't.
As in, you start off by bribing them by giving them either boner pills or giving them prostitution.
Who
and
can
then
you buy it with boner pills?
Huh?
How poor do you have to be?
No, the Middle East. No, wait up. There was people in the Middle East, literally dictators asking for boner pills or actual terrorists asking for boner pills because that's what they need when you have like 1,000 wives.
The new currency. We thought it was oil, but it's actually boner pills.
I know what you're saying. Yes, as they were bribing these tribes, they wanted boner pills.
Oh,
okay,
Taliban. I got.
I am so happy. I'm so happy that Johnny made us go deeper on that.
That made no sense
because it started at like a classic XG fully retarded statement, and then kind of brings it back.
It brings it back. You start off with
we were talking about Baby Reindeer. Now I didn't finish Baby Reindeer, but to me that's the show about that comedian who meets that fat girl, and she starts stalking him.
Yeah, and then it gets deeper. He ends up.
I didn't finish it. So what? He gets molested at the end of this.
You gotta watch this thing. So he ends up getting stalked by that fat chick. He ends up getting stalked by that fat chick. But then before that, he's a comedian and he's living with his mom. Remember his girlfriend's mom? Well, they broke up because he started going to this director's house all the time to do drugs and get molested. But this director kept telling him, like, yo, you're going to be part of the next movie. And he just keeps going to this guy's house and doing GHB. And then after he gets fucked
does he ever get molested?
Yeah, he gets molested by the director. And then he ends up falling in love with the trans because now he finds out that he likes it's the fucking craziest. It's like an Emmy nominated Netflix award.
I got to go back to that. I didn't. I mean, I kind of got bogged down. I probably like halfway through where that woman is just creeping him out. You know,
it gets way better. That's just the beginning of it. Trust me, you got to go back to that.
Wow. I mean, that's
crazy, dude.
That is crazy.
It's so crazy, bro. It's so crazy. The whole thing. But here's the other thing they manipulate you with is they get you to commit a crime. They basically put you on trial and they get you off and they own you. And we've seen that. So what's very interesting right now is the leader of the ports, the dock workers.
Oh yeah.
He was on trial for some really shady shit, right? Like bribery and all this stuff. And like all the witnesses died. And the case went away. And now you go, okay, that's interesting. And then now October, 1 month out, now suddenly he's like, yeah, we're shutting it down until you give us our demands. You're like, dude, that is, and the way he talks, like he's a gangster, dude, which he is a gangster, dog, you know? But it's like, it sounded to me like this guy is a part of the team.
Hey, we talk about suicide, right? And if Diddy's gonna suicide himself, we've never thought about maybe any of the actors or the rappers will commit suicide because they don't want this coming out. Like if there's a video of you getting pinned down by Diddy and you're a rapper, how are you gonna live that down?
I don't know. I'm not a I'm not a rapper.
I'm just saying.
I would
a
wait
rapper.
until it comes out and then kill myself. I wouldn't kill myself first.
That's
Guys,
what I'm waiting.
go to
I'm just-
Broken Sim T-shirts. You can get the new shirt.
Yeah,
Johnny
we-
somehow
we
attributed
sold-
to my quote. Why'd you put Sam Tripoli on there?
We
So
sold
ridiculous.
We
Can you
sold
pull the
one shirt.
T-shirt up, Johnny? Can you pull the T-shirt up?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
What is it?
Why did you put like my name on it?
Because I thought we should put up some kind of promotion, so we're promoting the show somehow. But I thought putting Broken Simulation there doesn't make a lot of sense. And since you love the shirt so much, it's basically a sentiment.
It made me laugh so hard. It made me laugh so hard.
Yeah.
Did you find it?
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah, here it is. Sounds gay. I'm in.
I mean, you wear the shirt, so you're espousing the opinion. So Sam Tripoli. Yeah.
Okay. Guys, again, my special is dropping. It looks like, oh God, it looks like it's going to be available two places for sure. SamTripoli.com and Rumble is really getting behind it, really loves it. They want to feature it and they want to put it under their premium content. So I'm very excited. Dana, who is always right about everything, even though I don't necessarily like her methods all the time, she is the smart one. So I've decided, I go, Dana, I'm going to let you take control of this because you're always right in the end.
Oh, I bet you love that.
Oh, well, I had to because I just want to give away. I have low self-esteem. So I just don't think anybody wants to watch it. And Dana's like, no, we're doing that. So I'm letting Dana do it. She's running the show. It will be available on rumble.com, October 15th, samtripoli.com. We are going to put out a clean version on YouTube because YouTube sucks. It sucks. Go to samtripoli.com. All my videos, all my audio, all available on samtripoli.com. All my dates are on samtripoli.com, right? Yes. I got Louisville, Kentucky this weekend. No, next weekend coming up. Got the Looney Bin. Very excited to be in Tulsa. Are we going to get weird? Are we getting weird, Oklahoma? I'm bringing Tino Sanchez with me. Tampa Bay, Florida, and then Cancun. I just got hit by Eddie. He needs my passport. I'm going to go take a picture of it. So that's Sam Tripoli. Go down real quick. We're not going to do this long. Go past that. The premium content. Go all the way down. Go up to the premium content, actually. Just go up to the premium content. All my premium content's there. I haven't done one in like a week. I'm going to get back to it. Going to put up more for you. I love doing premium content. Our deep dives, our dangerous, Johnny Cash reading the Bible, all that stuff. Then you can also check out the Cash Daddy Patreon. If you're looking to make money on the Patreon, look at that, dude. This is where you go, okay? Yeah, dude, it's looking good. Join us, $20 a month. That's how we do it. Bang, bang, pow. You get every day. Our good friend Howie drops great investment advice, and people make money on it. The markets go up and down, so you're always dancing that dance. But sometimes you're gonna win a lot, you're gonna lose some. That's how it just goes. And then go check out all of our affiliates. Anything else, guys?
Hit that like button, subscribe, please.
New Broken
Johnny?
Sim is out. Sam recaps his Skankfest experience. It's awfully funny. And we talk about Russell Brand, too. We can't quite figure out what to think about that
We
guy.
don't know what's going on with that
Oh,
guy.
yeah. And since you brought up that, sorry, I am vlogging Skankfest. Sam was there, so everything that happened at Skankfest will be at XG Marks the Spot on YouTube. Thank you.
All right, enjoy these highlights.
Here's a clip from the latest Broken Sim.
Are you going to go see Am I Racist? I saw it.
Yes. Did you like it?
I highly recommend it. It's very funny. I didn't know it was going to be that funny. It's a lot funnier than the last movie he did. And I don't really want to spoil it, but you probably heard about it already if you've watched any content about it. There's a moment in the movie where they get one of the leaders of this whole bullshit industry and just make a fool of her.
Yeah, I've heard all about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I highly recommend
I'm
it
in.
more.
Fuck, and it's just like because it's all bullshit, and it's like, it's like I don't care. I don't listen, dude. I prefer to love everybody. Okay, that's why I want to live in my life. I was listening to a guy break down the vice president debate, and he's right. He's like, our diversity is great. I love it. I love living in LA and having all these wonderful options of life.
It used to be not a thing. Like the 90s, the late 90s, that was like, we were like post-racial. Nobody ever talked about race.
Yeah, and then they just cranked it up because they just knew what was coming, what they wanted. And when we do an episode on Flint, Michigan, I hear real racism.
Yeah.
You know, systematic racism where the government's doing that, okay? Not white supremacy, but greedy sellout pieces of shit trying to take over a land and run out poor black people. And then I hear Dyson and he's, by saying the name Kamala, you are playing into systematic. Like, get out of here, dude. That's done on purpose. Get people tired of it.
That guy sucks, by the way.
He sucks.
Wasn't it Michael
He's
Eric
a
Dyson or
loser.
something?
Oh, he's gross.
Let's see. We did the Mark Cuban rap. I don't need to play that again.
Well, I mean, the real question with the Mark Cuban rap is what do you think they have him on film shoving up his butt that he's saying the stupid stuff and doing a dumb rap and like Stephen Colbert, I mean, has anyone destroyed their brand more?
Well, I never thought he was funny. I never liked that Colbert Report thing. I don't like that kind of...
Well, now it doesn't come off as funny because
he's not funny.
The character is like, you thought, okay, this is kind of funny when we had the, right, bad, left, good, and now we realize that it's a uniparty. He looks like an asshole.
Yeah.
And now he's a bleeding heart liberal that's just ridiculous.
And Mark Cuban, did you notice? I said this while you were out, but he looks like someone who died and then got made up by the Undertaker.
Yeah, he looks like
he looks weird.
He
man.
looks like the seventh generation of Frankenstein.
Yeah,
like they keep working out the kinks and now it's somewhat human looking.
It's so strange. How
And
he
it's
looks,
just
dude.
weird. And here we are with another billionaire saying stupid shit. And you're like, why are you going so hard in the paint? Oh, they called in all the favors. They're making you do this shit because the rap is dumb. It's not funny. And you guys just look stupid.
Okay, so this is...
I feel like AI Hitler's like our co-host. Right now.
He's just hanging out right there in the lower. It's been a tough year for Australia. I mean, they had Reagan, and now they have the Office remake, right? Is a thing that has been successful in many, many countries. You just take the very simple cookie cutter idea of The Office, the original the UK Office, which is superior to all of it in my mind. But the watered down US Office, you just take that and reproduce it in whatever country you're in, and it's a success. They went completely woke with it.
Of course.
My God, it looks terrible. They took all the male roles and made them women.
Okay, and also, I mean, when you take this outside of Australia, her accent is annoying.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Right?
Of course,
I listened to 3 words. I'm like, okay, this doesn't work.
No,
Go on.
You're right.
Can I have a drum roll, please? The drum roll, Lloyd.
That's how I drum roll.
People ask me, how can I become a great boss? And the answer is having a happy staff that love you.
This is a proper HR nightmare.
As of today, we are all back in the office full time. What?
That's not good news.
I'm promoting you to productivity manager.
Yes, sir. Do I want to support the vision of my branch manager? At all costs.
Is this the dark web?
No, it's not the dark web. Is that Lizzie?
Okay.
The perks of coming to work. Riling up Lizzie. Flirting. Watching Nick rile up Lizzie.
What's his name?
My crow's name is Russell.
Hello, Rusty. How are you, mate?
Nick, no.
It's the trailer. There's not one fucking laugh in the trailer for the show.
One of our own last week.
Brian died.
We were so close. He's always in my heart.
Oh, is he the tall, sad one?
Yeah.
No, he was the short and smiley one.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
What nationality is he?
What sexual identity is he? Doesn't feel relevant, does it?
Hannah is a riddle swallowed by an idiot and shut up by a moron.
That might be the closest thing to a
Those
laugh.
people are like family to me, and I won't let you throw them out on the street.
The daily commute is killing me.
Is someone sleeping in here?
I don't want anyone knowing about it. It's not a big deal. It's been 4 nights this week. It's nothing.
It's the race that stops the nation.
Giddy up. It's
Yeah,
awake, but I want people
it's
to feel
just the
awake.
notion
I mean, I don't even have to
that
play the rest of it. It's
acting
terrible.
is in talent.
Yeah.
That's it. And it's just like, I'm sorry, man. I just like, you are going to kill your product.
I mean, they already did. Nobody's gonna watch that, dude. It's terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the trailer, and there's not one laugh in it. It's a comedy.
But honestly, I'm sorry, everybody, but the American trailer, the American version, wasn't nearly as good as the British version.
No, and it was the American version was okay for like 3 seasons until it came to the logical endpoint of Jim and Pam getting together. And that's when the British version ends. That's the last beat of the spoiler alert. Sorry. The last beat of that show is them getting together because that's where the story ends. And they got there and then did 6 more seasons and just drove it to the ground. Yeah. And you have Steve Carell coming out and saying that we could never do that show again under the current climate, and that's a good thing. That's what he said.
And that's a good thing?
Yeah, that's what he said.
I mean, just get the fuck out of here.
What are you talking about?
All you guys closing doors behind you. Will Ferrell doing that? Oh, I wouldn't do drag. I wouldn't dress as... Dude, you did Janet Reno, who is like complicit in murdering Americans, and you're like worried about the sensitivity of it? Guys, the joke isn't that they're making fun of trans. The joke is men are portraying how they see women acting. It's not a shitting on trans. There's not enough trans in the world to make that a situation.
No. I mean, it's such a small
number. What are you doing?
So it turns out when we talked about how they were making...
I mean, Will Ferrell, like, I loved him early, and then he was just everywhere. Now he's just annoying. You're just annoying, bro.
Like, did you see him with his son?
Like your character always was cuck, right? It always was the cuck guy.
Yeah. And he's big, so it's
and
fine.
now you're doing a show because your buddy wants to live a lifestyle. Now you're getting a series on Netflix? Really?
Wait, what? I don't know what this. What is it?
Yeah, there's a show about Will Ferrell's like best friend. Whatever, who cares? His best friend is like transitioning, and of course
a reality show.
Yeah, like a docu-series about.
Who cares?
And then the first clip I see them together, who's he talking to? To the trans children. It's like, get out of here, dude.
That's clearly that. I mean, that's programming.
What
to a T,
dude, and it's like, why do you need a docu-series? Nobody
it's brainwashing.
You're like, oh, I'm mad at you for giving money to Kamala Harris, or are we just tired of just like, dude, you're a multi-millionaire. You've been writing with Will Ferrell. You decide to dress up now, and now we need a series trying to convince us, to gaslight us into somehow you're a fucking hero.
You should transition, Sam. You could do wonders for your career, bro.
My dick's small enough.
So we talked about this last year about how we've noticed that celebrities are starting to wear bigger glasses, and we think it's in preparation for this. Facebook announced this week it's what they called like an aspirational product. It's not ready for sale yet. They can't make this at a price point that people could afford.
Yeah.
But it is everything we've talked about. It's your phone in a pair of glasses that don't look completely ridiculous. People have tried it. Journalists have tried it. Said that it is a jaw-dropping technology. It might be the new iPhone.
If you'd like to hear the rest of this episode, subscribe to Broken Simulation in your podcasting app or check us out at youtube.com/SamTripoli.
We go deep, homeboy. Aaron, open your mind. Drink from the fountain of knowledge. There's lizard people everywhere. That's some interdimensional shit. Wake up, Aaron.
This is only the beginning.
Dude, you just blew my mind. Tinfoil hack.